Hey guys, welcome back to the Golf Podcast. This is episode number 361, and we are going to try to make it through this episode without any Gone in 60 Seconds references.
We're talking speed.
Need for Speed. There, it already happened. It already happened. Oh, cannot avoid it, unfortunately. But all right, what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about golf ball speed. So it's speed being something that, it's important. Obviously, we'll talk about this more in depth in a second, how it's also important to not always be chasing speed. And also sometimes there is kind of the wrong approach, the wrong way to get to speed. And we're going to be covering that a lot more in future episodes. We're going to do a lot of episodes coming up on body mechanics and efficiency in the swing, rather than just trying to swing as hard as humanly possible.
Yep. I think this is something a lot of people don't think about. They don't think about ball speed. I think club speed kind of trumps it because everyone wants to swing faster. And then when you say, well, what about your ball speed? And a lot of people say, well, what does that even mean?
Right. And then that's where these efficiencies come in. Mm-hmm. So obviously, and we'll define ball speed because we know that there's a range of people who listen to the show, from beginner golfers to much more experienced golfers. Guys like us, we're people who've been playing the game for a little bit now, and we're learning more and more, but we're not professionals. So we're also learning as we go. So I think it's a good idea to go back and kind of revisit certain definitions. But that's where it's a good point, because that's where kind of efficiency comes in. So yes, you generate all that club head speed, but then you need to take that club head speed and efficiently transfer it to the ball. So that's where we've talked smash factor.
That's how we get the smash, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And we've talked smash factor here on the show before, but it's going to be a good idea to kind of revisit that a little bit. We're also going to do our Twitter tap-in a second. Beyond that, though, a lot of exciting things going on. We're going to be doing some indoor lessons over the next couple of weeks. We're going to be working with some coaches. It is difficult, of course, to be kind of stuck indoors, so to speak, in these winter months. But it's a time to work on your game. If you're somebody who lives in an area where you have less than a 12-month season, I think a good part of, because you don't really want to be making too many swing changes during like the real swing of your season. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a good time to do that. So we're going to show you guys a little bit of that. So make sure you stay tuned to Golficity and the YouTube channel, because we're going to bring you some of those lessons as well. What else do we got going on, Mike?
One of those is going to be, we're going to get our golf game, our skills assessed.
Yes.
Which is going to be pretty cool.
I'm excited about that, because I think that's where too, you learn so much about the areas where you need to improve. I don't remember who it is, so I apologize for forgetting. But I remember seeing a post in the Facebook group, in the Golficity Facebook group, where someone had just gotten the shot scope and was doing some of his stat tracking. And he said, man, it was tough to see at first the areas where he needed improvement. I think, what it was? The strokes gained. Now that the strokes gained is worked in with the latest update on shot scope.
Right.
He said, oh my God, there's so many areas where I need help. But think of it like this, you can look at that and be like, wow, these statistics, are tough to see, but you can also look at it and be like, well, now I know where I need to improve, because those are the spots that otherwise, if unidentified, you would not know to make them better.
Absolutely. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what needs improvement. And I think I already know going into it, but curious to see what
But you
say.
Never know. Sometimes you get surprised.
You're right.
And then that way you can be efficient. So another thing that we're also going to do on the podcast coming up is we're going to talk about how to be more efficient with your practice by really honing in and creating a practice plan that's specific to you. Because a lot of times too, it's wasted time in our practice because we don't realize that we're just kind of like moving through our practice session without direction. Whereas if you have that focused, like it's almost like a to-do list. Mm-hmm. Like, what the things that need to be done around your house, you write them down and you check them off, right? You don't just randomly go around your house just seeing if every outlet works.
Right.
You know what I mean? And just doing whatever. You got to make sure that you're using your time wisely. So we're going to do that in a future episode as well. So if you're not already subscribed to the podcast, make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, as well as we do the podcast on YouTube and Facebook Watch as well, if you prefer to watch the show. But make sure you subscribe, because we've been working really hard on this, and all the things that we're working on in our own game, we're going to talk about here.
Yep.
So that's exciting. All right, let's dive into this week's Twitter tap-in. And if you guys are not already following us on Twitter, make sure you do so at Golficity, so that you can be a part of the Twitter tap-in conversation each week. And this week, we asked, and this was going to be a fun one because we've got some stuff planned for ourselves, but we asked, Do you have a golf trip planned for this year? And if so, tell us where you're headed. And I'll tell you what, Mike, I think there's a lot of people who are playing catch up from not getting to travel last year.
For sure.
I mean, and I know this is not only something that once we're traveling in will be good for golfers, but it'll be good for the resorts again, because I know a lot of golf courses and golf resorts are really hurting by the shutdown in travel over the last year.
Yeah.
But we announced just our news on the last episode that
Pinehurst. Can't wait. We'll be down there for about 4 to 5 days. We're just going to be playing a lot of golf. I saw that itinerary already, so I'm super excited. Cross my fingers we're going to make it happen. But there's a lot of good ones on here. Right off the bat, I want to just jump in here. Curtis, this is funny. Curtis called, bro, I wish. But now that you mention it, I might need to show my wife the spa packages at Innisbrook. Thinking outside the box, Curtis. I love it, and the same as my wife, and I know your wife has said the same, as we've hung out many times, the four of us saying like, hey guys, you go to these courses, where are these like great spas?
Yeah.
And it's a great thing, absolutely, because everybody wins.
Yeah,
so
and we have played that card many times.
Many times.
You start with that part of the brochure.
That's it.
Oh, there's golf there too.
Exactly.
But speaking of Pinehurst, some of the other guys from our team too will be there. I believe Eric Benzenberg is going to be traveling there.
What's he doing, like a bachelor party or
He's
something?
doing a bachelor party, but he's also been doing some great work with building out Golficity Travel.
Yep.
So if you haven't followed that account on Instagram, check out Golficity Travel, as well as he's going to be doing some write-ups for Golficity on the website, which is really cool because it's cool to highlight some of these things that you might not be aware of and learning about some of these great travel destinations. And that's one great thing too about golf and our sport in general, is that it also includes this piece of seeing new places and traveling to new spots. But I'll tell you what, Curtis, one thing too to check out, talk about spas, and this is something we want to really get out and do, but out at Kohler.
Yeah.
Now you got Whistling Straits and all, and some great golf courses, but supposedly, and we haven't seen it firsthand yet, but they've got the Kohler Spa there.
Kohler Spa, I think it's like the best.
It's like, supposedly the best in the country. So if we get a chance to check it out firsthand, we'll make sure to show you guys. But there's another spot where you can play some real premier golf. And have your wife be happy as well. Let's see here. What other ones do we have?
Casey Loves Golf. This one popped because I've seen the name before. He said, hoping to hit Big Cedar Lodge this year. I think that's in Branson, Missouri. He says, have to get the details ironed out with the guys, hoping they don't drag their feet. It's only a few hours from my house, but far enough away. So that's the place. And I responded because that's where Scott McCarron, he got married. And he came on the show and he was talking about it. And I've always loved the way that place looks. I wish we can get out there one day.
Yeah, and that's
Top
with
of the
that
rock.
epic range, right? Yeah, we showed that on Twig.
I think they've got that par 3 that's like the best in the nicest in the country.
That place is gorgeous. John Dunnigan says Myrtle for his silver anniversary.
There you go.
This April, Myrtle Beach in April.
Yeah.
Beautiful. He said golf is already booked. It's going to be spectacular. That's it. I mean, and how that's part of this stuff too. When you book a golf trip, that excitement you feel.
Yeah.
I still remember when playing Kiwa, when we had the wedding, my wife's cousin's wedding. I ended up, because in some of these places too, here's another tip, man, book them as far in advance as you can, because while you maybe even get something into the resort, sometimes the hard part is the tee time. And I ended up having to book to play the ocean course. I think it was 4 months in advance. And the further out, like we knew from traveling to Scotland, trying to play like the old course and some of these places, book as soon as you know that you've got the trip, because otherwise the last thing you want to do is travel and get to the resort and not being able to play the courses you want to play. So definitely book them out in advance. But I tell you what, the excitement you do feel once you have that on the books, man, you got just a little extra spring in your step. You got something to look forward to.
I feel good, ready. That's how I feel right now with Pinehurst. And I started like setting up my office. I started packing already. It's like 3 months away. That's how excited I am. It's crazy.
I see Myrtle Beach quite a bit.
Yep, seeing Myrtle.
That's another thing that we've got to do at some point.
Well, here's a good one. I'll give Mike Williams a shout out here. Nothing at the moment, but might turn the couple days before my wedding into a mini golf trip. So getting married at Mountain Creek, so Ballyowen and Wild Turkey are currently on the list of must play right in our backyard.
There you go. And
you went to a wedding at Ballyowen, and I think part of the bachelor party you played Ballyowen.
We played.
So.
Now, which was funny because the crew we played with were not all golfers, but the groom got 2 free foursomes as part. So after I think it was 5.5 hours, the sun went down. We didn't finish 18. We had to leave.
Yeah.
But look, again, I'm not the type of guy. I've said this before that I'm gonna that's not going to ruin my day to not get to finish. It's the experience. And
Sure.
to me, it was cool. And I know it can be frustrating as a golfer to be slowed down by non-golfers. But again, there's two sides to every coin. And the other side of that is the fact that you're out there having fun with your buddies who maybe otherwise don't really know the game or weren't exposed to it. And for all you know, you come out of that with somebody who now gets a little bit of interest and wants to start to learn the game. That's how we grow the game. So yes, while I agree it can be frustrating to go out there and play with non-golfers, if you think about the other side as, your own kind of stewards of the game, if you're out there and showing people how much fun it can be and you're bringing more people into the game, that's how you grow the game.
Yeah, 100%.
That's really how you grow the game.
And Mike, by the way, congratulations on the wedding. Frank and I are going to crash the wedding. It's right in our backyard. We will be there. I went to a wedding at Mountain Creek. I just wanted to mention this. Not last summer. We had to take a chairlift to the top to the reception. Freaked out the whole way up because you know me in heights.
Yeah.
Chairlift to the top, but the reception was beautiful. So congrats.
And I'll tell you what, I just rewatched the Wedding Crashers the other night.
There you go.
And I was going to send you a screenshot because the outfits because we want to do that.
Yep.
We have some plans for crashing an event maybe later this year. It might involve the PGA Tour. So stay tuned for that. Lastly, just kind of mentioning here, I see Pebble Beach, Ryan Donovan, Pebble Beach. Wow. I mean, if you can play Pebble, every person we've ever talked to who's been out there and played Pebble and the surrounding courses have said it's been a dream come true.
Sure.
But I tell you what, remember when you ran the numbers of the cost to play there?
Yeah.
It was
thousands.
Yeah, because there's a big part of it was staying, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of courses too where you have to stay in order to play. And I'm thinking, was one of those Bay Hill? Because Bay Hill is private.
Yep.
But I think if you stay somewhere in association with it,
then you could play it.
You could play it. So there are ways to get on certain courses that you might not otherwise, but you have to stay in order to play. But anyway, great stuff. And like I said, and you guys have been awesome about this, so continue doing so. For the Twitter tap-in, if we didn't get your response here, drop them in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube or on Facebook, because I saw a lot of the comments and responses coming in to last week's episode. So really appreciate that, and that way we can kind of keep the conversation going, because it is fun to talk about. Like I said, once you got that golf trip on the books, man, you're excited.
Oh, absolutely. It gives you something to look forward to.
It does. It does. What do you say we do a quick word from our sponsors, and then we're going to hop into talking a little bit about ball speed.
Let's do it.
And here's a great segue to talking about speed. Want to thank this week's sponsor, Titleist, the TSI drivers. They represent the best in Titleist peerless pursuit of speed, and they continue to invest in the minds, the material, and the technology it takes to push boundaries of speed while sacrificing nothing when it comes to performance. Again, couldn't be better timing on this one, because you and I both picked up ball speed with the new TSI, and we had tremendous ball speed gains when we went to the TS prior to that. And what's really cool is that Titleist took everything that they learned from developing the real groundbreaking technology that went into the TS drivers, and then took that and stepped that up by everything that they learned, all the stuff, the feedback they get from players as high as the PGA Tour down to your everyday average golfers. They took that information and they were able to put that into the TSI, and again, even more speed out of it, and really sacrificing nothing when it came to control. I've said my TSI, it's my fairway finder. We talked about in our goals episode, we talked about hitting some of our goals, and one of mine was hitting more fairways, which undoubtedly those numbers went up. So it's more than just an extension in the franchise. The TSI really is an investment in your game. It's going to pay for dividends for years to come. And that's another thing I like about a driver. It's a bit of an investment, but a great driver will last you quite a few seasons. And it's another reason why we always say get fit, because it's something that it's going to be a big part of your game for a long time. And a good driver is going to set you up for better scoring by getting you a little more distance, getting you in the fairway, getting your chance to hit
greens. It's going to give you all those feels.
Yes.
When you croak that nice drive,
it's few things that feel better than that. Few things that feel better. So visit Titleist.com to learn more about the TSI series drivers.
Absolutely. And FootJoy, the #1 outerwear brand in golf, thank you for sponsoring this episode. Those guys are committed to helping you extend the golf season as long as possible, providing you with the best gear to make every day playable. Now, guys, you got to check out. I don't know if you're a shoe junkie or not. I don't care. Go to FootJoy, check out the new Hyperflex.
Sick.
Sick.
Yeah.
Probably the nicest golf shoe I've ever seen. It's everything you want in a golf shoe, but more to come on that.
And with
soon.
the BOA, it's so clean.
Oh man, it's so clean.
So
no
clean.
laces, just a little click.
Clean.
Excellent. Also, I don't want you guys to forget about the Hydro Series. I've been talking about it for weeks, but we're still in that cold winter climate. And let me tell you something. The Hydro Series line of rain jackets includes so many different options. You can go light. You can go a little thicker. Depends on where you're teeing it up in the country. If you're going on that golf trip and it's going to be a little cold, I don't know why you would flee the winter cold to go somewhere cold, but if you're going to do
Depends on the course, I guess.
It depends on the course, and it depends on your preference. So check out the FootJoy Performance lineup this year, the all-new Hydro Tour rain jacket, my favorite, that was designed to withstand the most extreme weather conditions. Play more golf. Visit footjoy.com/MEDP.
Cold is one thing. Cold and wet is a whole other story.
It's a whole different story.
You stay dry out there, trust me, you're going to be able to play a lot longer.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about ball speed. And again, like I said, that we try to make sure in these episodes that we talk about the things that we've learned as we pursue growing in this game. And we try to do it through the lens of saying, have a little bit of something for everyone in here. So if you're a more experienced golfer, you may thinking, well, ball speed, okay, I get it. But you never know. There might be some things in here. It's always good as a refresher. So definitely hang around for that. For our newer golfers, we'll also try to define some of the different things. So ball speed, I think, is something that's getting a lot more visibility in recent years because technology has advanced so much so quickly. Good example of this, just last episode, we talked about the in-range technology, and we talked about some of the different top tracer and other types of radar-based systems that are being brought to just your average driving ranges. And you're starting to see this more and more. Additionally, we're starting to see launch monitor technology become much more widely available. So whether it's something like the Rapsodo or the Mevo, or there's so many different ones, or even these homes type of simulator situations. So we've tested out with OptiShot, the home simulator. There's a couple other ones out there that more and more we're getting the technology that it takes to track and measure ball speed, which is not something that's easy to do when you think about how fast the golf ball is moving. I mean, this all happens in a blink of an eye. So whereas, again, before, ball speed, I mean, years ago, before we were measuring, we were just looking more or less at trajectory and distance, stuff that you could witness with the eye. But now, you know, your eye is never going to be able to witness the difference in 10 miles an hour in ball speed.
Right.
But you're able to get it because we're measuring it better. So as we measure, we now set new baselines for areas where we can improve.
Yes, but my big thing, I come back to these numbers. It's like, okay, you know these numbers. Now what? You know, like, what do I do to make me a better player?
Well, you benchmark them. So that's where you it's not something that you need to be measuring your ball speed every single day, unless there's something very specific you're working on with ball speed, and you want to make sure that what you're doing is you get that immediate gratification that it's working. But otherwise, it's kind of like checking in every once in a while and just seeing, like, measuring my ball speed, noting what that ball speed is. It can be even one of your goals. Set goals. Again, it's a measurable thing that then you can then benchmark your own progress against. So if you start to see that ball speed going up, you know that you're doing something, well, some of the stuff we'll talk about how to improve, in the right direction. Vice versa. If you start to see that ball speed coming down, you can start to take a relook at things like equipment. Is it time? Is your equipment kind of aging a bit? You can look at and fit. Is it fit? Is it, you know, does it time for a new fitting? You can look at things like health and fitness.
So fair enough. So ball speed could help you improve your game.
Well, 100%.
I get it.
More ball speed
more of an indicator.
Means more distance.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also, like I said, just checking in and seeing, am I going in the wrong direction? Because if you're going the opposite direction, there could be something fitness-wise that you need to reassess. It could be strength. It could be mobility. You never know. It could be an injury that's causing you to be able to rotate less. And as part of that, you're starting to lose ball speed. So it's important. But kind of jumping back into that, what is ball speed? And it's really kind of simple. It's the measurement of the speed of the ball when it leaves the club face. So obviously it's measured at that moment for consistency, because otherwise, as the ball interacts with the air, there's friction, it's going to slow down. The ball speed's going to slow down. So when you see that number, miles per hour, it's usually measured in, you're going to say, like, that's right at impact. And that's where we need these devices that can measure that. It's usually sophisticated radar that is able to track that. Kind of like how the police are giving you that speeding ticket. It's a similar type of thing. So what kind of numbers should you be looking for? Well, this is really going to greatly vary based on your skill ability, your age, your physical ability. It's all that's going to vary. So everyone should kind of set and know their own ball speed. But just to kind of show you what the high end of the spectrum looks like, your average tour professional, PGA Tour professional, and this is we're talking about with driver here, because obviously your ball speed is going to be different with each club. Driver is going to generate the most ball speed. 175 miles an hour is pretty much, kind of the high end, and for the most of the PGA Tour players, you got your long ball guys you're going to see there, and then your extreme long ball hitters, somewhere around 190 miles an hour, if you can believe it or not. That golf ball is traveling 190 miles an hour when it leaves the club face.
The club face.
Isn't that insane?
And what did we say Bryson was at? About 203, I think he hit.
203. So when you talk about Bryson DeChambeau, like the top, long ball hitters on tour, and he's somebody who, again, talking about measuring ball speed, if you follow him closely in his social, you can see how much work he's put into that with speed training and things like that. And then there's the guys who are doing the absolute extreme would be the long drive competitors, and they're ridiculous.
230 Kyle Berkshire. Yeah. It's insane. 230.
230. Can you imagine? But again, what's the point of this? The point is a measurement. And the point is not to compare yourself against the PGA Tour pros. I think that's where the wheels come off sometimes, is that you get somebody who, is fit and they've got the ability to move, and then now they start chasing the numbers that the PGA Tour players have, and things like accuracy, and that falls out the window. So this is a good idea to have as a reference, but the reality is you really want to kind of benchmark against yourself. Find out what your ball speed and work on improving that, rather than work on trying to be like the tour pros, right out the gate. And why is it important? I mean, look, this it's not too hard to explain. You don't need a degree in physics. The faster the ball is traveling, the further it's going to go. And the further you're able to advance the ball, the shorter approach shots you're going to be able to have. So if you drive the ball just a few yards further, it could be the difference between hitting a 7-iron or a 9-iron into a green. And as we all know, the closer you get, it's easier to put that closer to the pin when you don't have to cover as much distance. So it is important. It is not, I would not say it's the most important thing. I mean, we even see guys on tour who are not notoriously long off the tee that are able to compete at the highest level. Thinking like Billy Horschel, some of these other guys that they're in the mix, but they're never were considered like 190 mile an hour ball speed guys. So that's even at the highest level. So it's not, like I said, this is not something that should be your key point of focus, but it should be part of your game and part of understanding it for all the reasons we mentioned earlier.
Makes sense. It definitely makes sense. And I saw it, the big difference, I know we're going to jump into that in a second, but when we did the TSI fitting, that's how I saw how important ball speed was. Right. When we did that equipment change. It
also shows how important a fitting is, because a good fitting is going to do that. They're going to have you on a TrackMan or some sort of very accurate measuring device. You're going to show ball speed, and then as you fine tune, so that might be weighting adjustments in the head. Right. That might be shaft, because remember the shaft being kind of, some people explain it as the engine or the transmission in that case. That's where you're going to get a little bit more of that ball speed. So yes, we see these great advances in the technology of the club, like like we talked about the TSI, but then you take that, you kick some gains that you get right off the bat from the new face or whatever it may be, the aerodynamics, then you dial it in within a fitting. So that's one spot where you're really going to see ball speed come into play in a fitting.
And it was like exceptional. I mean, I think the numbers for me were, with the old driver, it was like in the high 150s. And I believe the numbers were like 167, 165 with the TSI. So the jump was huge. And that was just a club change. Yeah. That was not anything else. I wasn't improving my swing mechanics the past couple of months. Right. Anything like that. We just swapped out equipment and boom.
Right. So in talking about how to get more ball speed, that would be the first thing. Equipment. Take a look at your equipment. And remember, it doesn't take a jump as much as you saw there to make a big difference. Right. I believe the statistic we heard from one of the fitters was, I think 5 mile an hour in ball speed translates to about 10 more yards distance. Maybe it's even more. But remember, there's also the transfer of that power. So it's you're measuring club head speed, but then you're going to measure ball speed. Yeah. So remember, you can get that club moving, but if you're not hitting the sweet spot and really transferring the power that you generate from that club into the ball, then that's another area where you may lose ball speed. So that's where we measure smash factor. We did a whole episode on that. So go back and check out the episode on smash factor for some more information. There's also some great articles on Golficity about it. But what that really talks about is the smash factor is the measured transfer of power from the club to the ball.
Right.
And there are certain physical limitations to how much you can physically transfer. There's also certain USGA standards that the club manufacturers have to conform to, that you can only have just so much transfer. So we kind of all go for a 1.5 in smash factor. But once you reach that, you know that everything that you're generating, the most possible that you're generating from the club, is transferring to the ball.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's something
that stat though. What was that? I think it was 3 yards for 1 mile per hour. Every 3 yards for every 1 mile per hour.
It was something like that.
Yeah.
It was like didn't need huge mile per hour changes in ball speed to get more distance. So again, a big one is equipment, and this is why we've harped on it before. You're going to hear us continuing to harp on it. A fitting is so important because sure, you may pick up a club off the rack and hit it at the range or demo it on a course, and it may sound great. You know, the trajectory looks great, but by really putting it in a good fitting on a measured device and looking at things like ball speed and then tweaking it with weight adjustments, shaft adjustments, that's where you're going to start to see where you're getting a really calculated improvement in ball speed. So equipment be the first thing. And on the other side of that too, it's not just always chasing the latest and greatest equipment. It can also be just, as we said, measuring your ball speed every once in a while just to see if your equipment is a little bit older and it's starting to lose a little bit of its punch, so to speak.
And I'm sure you'll get that feedback right away. You know, with the simplest, go to the local store and swing a club, swing the next club, swing the next club. Look at it. Look at the data, right, and say, wow.
And that's why it's so great now we have these personal launch monitors. So you can do that just every once in a while on the range, just check in, whether it be, like I said, the Mevo or the Rapsodo. You put it down and you just kind of look at your ball speed. So that's a big way to keep an eye on that. The other one is improving your swing mechanics. And this is something that, again, stay tuned for this because we're going to cover this in detail in a future episode, where there's the idea of just swinging as hard as you can and then efficiently. And I believe this quote goes back to, I think I heard this from Tiger Woods, where he said his father had told him, swing as hard as you can so long as you can hit the center of the face. And I think some of us only hear the first half of that sentence, swing as hard as you can. And what happens is we start to swing so hard, and we've talked about balance before, and it's another topic we're going to talk more about. We swing so hard, we become off balance. It's much easier to maintain your balance when you're swinging controlled. When you start to swing as hard as you can, I mean, take it to the limit sometime.
Right.
Just, you don't even have to hit a ball. Just swing as hard as you can and note what happens to your balance. Are you falling forward, back, whatever? It only takes, remember how big that club face is and how the ball, they're both very small. And the spot where that club face actually makes contact with the ball is so small. Just moving that around a half inch in any one direction can cause a tremendous difference in the transfer of energy that we were saying, out towards the toe or in towards the heel. So does it make more sense to swing a little bit more controlled and transfer more energy? Yes, versus you may generate all the swing speed in the world, and if you can't transfer it to the ball, you're not going to get the ball speed.
Yeah.
So if you see a huge disparity in club head speed and ball speed, you know that you're doing something wrong, and that's smash factor.
Exactly. And I think because we want it both, right? I want to be able to swing as hard as I can, but also like controlled and hit the sweet spot every time.
Right.
So my big thing, and I think a lot of us always say we're going to work on one thing over the winter. What's it going to be? And I think it's doing that. And we started doing this in the sim. We started swinging at 10%.
Yeah.
It's like, let's start doing that to get up and just start slowly dialing it up a little more and more, so then I could swing a little faster, but not incredibly fast, but get my timing right and transfer more of that energy.
Yeah, and we've been seeing that, as Mike was saying, around social media a lot, where you see guys sharing them swinging at 10%, 20% and going up. It's an exercise you can try too. It's hard to swing at 10%.
It's so hard.
I'll tell
I
you
don't even know
much.
what that means.
Right. But try that and then see, where's my break point? At what percentage do I start to lose control of where the ball's going to go? What percentage do I start to lose control of my own balance and mechanics?
Well, yeah, I think a lot of those aids that we're using are going to help us with that. Those saltids and those body tracks over there, because we can go through those drills and say, all right, 10% you were nice and steady, and this is what Sprecker's going to come in and hopefully show us. At 20% you were good. At 40%,
Yeah.
what happened? A little weight, a little shifted.
Yeah.
What happened? So I can't wait to do that.
And
with
that
him.
is, if you guys didn't just check out, our video just this past week for salted, again, great technology. We're talking about, something that it's an insole that goes in your shoe that measures your balance.
Smart insoles.
And that's where you can see it. You can start to see if you're moving around. But just keep this in mind. Golf, it's not about raw effort. So many of us think that it's about raw effort. It really comes down to mechanics. So if you can improve your technical mechanics, you should start to see that ball speed get better. And a big part of that is balance. So obviously there's balance. There's other things like lag and things like that go into it. But really putting a focus on mechanics more so than just raw power will start to create a shift in your golf game.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, how many times, if you listen to us regularly, we talk all the time about focusing on fundamentals.
Yes.
And a big fundamental is all about getting those mechanics down.
That's what it's all about, Frank.
Right. Now, you could have the best mechanics in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And then you say, okay, I am at a 1.5, on my smash factor every time. I'm transferring everything I'm generating to the ball. Now, how do I improve? What's the next step? Now, if you get to that point, then first of all, I pat you on the back, because it is hard to get mechanics that repeatable. You can always work on improving. Even the best players in the world are always working on getting more consistent. But at that point, the next spot for gains, fitness, Mike.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and this is where you've seen a lot of improvement.
Yeah, absolutely. Strong legs, strong core, balance and rotation. You can't rotate if you're not flexible.
Yeah.
All that stuff. It all works together. So I think this is one of the most important.
It is. And this is where, too, I think a lot of us have seen a revolution in golf over the past couple of years, whereas going way back, you think Tiger was kind of one of the pioneers of fitness in golf, and you start to see, guys out there who are golfers really looking like athletes. Then all of a sudden you start to see a switch where it was becoming less and less the outlier and more the norm. We're seeing so many guys on tour who are so focused on fitness. Even not the guys who wouldn't consider the most built guys.
Right.
You get a guy like Justin Thomas. He's working hard in the gym on being able to he has got that lean muscle, and most importantly, as you said, flexibility and balance. We're starting to see these very focused exercises where these guys are working on, balance balls and things like that. Really stabilization, core. Think about it. If you're rotating your body as fast and hard as you can, it really requires a great core strength in order to keep the balance while doing that. Because if you don't have that, as soon as you start swinging this weight that's pretty far away from your body around, you're going to start to fall in different directions.
Yeah, definitely.
So this is where that really comes in.
I got to tell you, other than that Peloton was the greatest thing I ever got in my life. I'm so glad you convinced me. But the other thing I got was this boxing bag. I put this little boxing bag in my house. And this goes back to Dr. Will's point about hitting lefty.
Yeah.
You were going to punch that all day as a righty, and that right hook feels good.
Yeah.
You start throwing those lefts, it feels weird, but let me tell you something. The power you build on that left side, I think that's going to work wonders for me, because I'm feeling stronger on my left side. It's the weirdest feeling. But he's absolutely right. Well, he's Dr. Will.
Yeah.
Anything he says, we listen to.
That's right. And that's so true. I mean, that's where fitness is becoming so specialized in and of itself. Whereas before it was just like go to the gym and just lift or whatever. But now things like you're saying, like boxing and things like that, we're improving our rotation and our strength there. I think one of the better ones we had was when we had Scott Stallings on the podcast, and you saw his dramatic change when he put a strong focus on fitness. And now he's a big CrossFit guy. So he's done a lot with that. And that's where you're just building up these other areas of the body. But other ones, of course, Brooks Koepka, the things that we've seen, what's his name do? Bryson DeChambeau, like it's incredible. But there's not a pro level golfer at this point who's not doing something in the gym. I know John Daly likes to make you think he does nothing other than lift like a beer can once in a while. But, there's also people who might be freaks of nature.
Yes.
But for the most part, to compete at that level, we're seeing them put almost equal time at this point in the gym as they are working on
Definitely.
their
It's
game.
it's part of their golf practice.
It is. And almost every Premier Pro has a fitness coach who is working as closely with them as a swing coach is.
Absolutely.
So that's
Some
another
life right
area.
there.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
Some life. Got my fitness coach and my golf coach coming over later.
Can you imagine? And your nutrition
And my
coach and
nutrition
everything
coach.
like that. But what comes with that is a big payroll that
Yeah.
you've got to support,
Right.
and B, a lot of pressure.
And a busy life. Yeah.
A lot of pressure.
A lot of
but
pressure.
but it is kind of living the dream for a lot of us who want to be out there playing golf all the time. But
For sure.
that's really the main thing. So kind of like quickly recapping, checking in with your equipment. You know, every once in a while, and we're going to do, actually, we've got an episode coming up. We're going to bring another master club fitter on the show. We're going to talk again about really the benefits of getting properly fit. So we're going to talk about frequency and things like that. So stay tuned for that. But equipment would be the first thing to check in on for ball speed. Another thing, swing mechanics. Mechanics is something that you can work on until your dying day. You know, it's just, and I think that while it can be frustrating for some golfers, I think once you find the comfort in that and knowing that there's like the beauty of working on your mechanics and getting the body to do what you want it to do, it's a new level of the game, a depth of the game that you start to really enjoy. And that's something that I've put such a strong focus on lately, Mike. I've been doing my basement kind of grind sessions, and I'm just working on always swinging at what it feels like 70%. In reality, it probably isn't. We talk about, feel versus real.
Sure.
I'm swinging probably harder than 70% because it's hard to not swing the golf club and just send it.
Yeah.
It really is hard.
It is hard.
But by feeling like I'm doing 70%, I'm staying more in control, more balanced. So balanced, posture, mechanics. Find the beauty in practicing that, and you'll find a new depth of this game. That's for sure. And then the last thing, fitness gains.
That's it.
And just being able to get stronger. And again, this is not necessarily about bulking up. If you want to bulk up, by all means, go for it. I would do it under, some guidance so that you don't lose flexibility. But again, it's about developing the body kind of uniformly and not overdeveloping certain spots where you lose some flexibility. But there's just so much great golf fitness tips out there now. I think even yoga is terrific for it. Flexibility. You got to be flexible in order to rotate.
Yes, definitely.
I was showing Spreck a video of myself where I'm like, I get to the top of the swing and I start to come up. And I'm like, why'd I come up there? He goes, because you stopped rotating. It looks like a flexibility issue. He goes, once you got to there, you didn't have any more flexibility. So all your body could do with the momentum was kind of just lift up to absorb it.
Right.
And you learn right there, be like, if I can just work on a little more flexibility here, I might get even more ball speed.
And that's not easy to work on.
No.
You got to push the limits to make yourself
time.
flexible.
Yeah.
And it hurts. It could be painful. But
that's why you got to do it right, so you don't injure yourself. But if you do it, it adds another caveat of injury prevention.
Absolutely.
Because being not flexible and then trying to swing a golf club as hard and as fast as we do, that can be recipe for injury. All right, guys. So that's everything we have for you this week. Hopefully you learned a little bit something about ball speed. If you've got some of your own tips, tricks, some maybe either exercises, drills, anything that you've worked on that you want to share with the community, post it in the comments below or share it in our Facebook group because we'd love to have you guys share that. You can get to the show notes for everything we talked about today by going to golficity.com/episode 361. And like I said, make sure you subscribe on whatever your favorite podcasting platform is because we are going to be lining up a lot more of this follow-up instruction to dig deeper into these different areas. And because we're not instructors ourselves, if there's areas where we want to get a little bit more expertise, we're going to bring some experts in. We're going to have some great interviews on the podcast coming up really soon over the next couple of weeks. So make sure you subscribe for that, and we'll see everybody again next week.